So it is 7:01. I am going to get this second session about club success started, which means I get to introduce our second speaker, who is Bart Loeser. Give me 1 second. I had Bart's bio up. I was looking at other things. It's here. All right. So Bart Loeser has been a professional educator, coach, and trainer for over 25 years. He advises and trains management staff and team members in interpersonal skills such as leadership, communication, emotional intelligence, and productivity. A Texas native with a psychology degree from UT, Bart has presented thousands of business skills seminars over the last 2 decades around the US and abroad. He has also been an active community volunteer and leader since the early 1980s, helping to create and organize projects and fundraising for dozens of service and educational organizations, including Toastmasters, where he has served District 55 in almost every role from division director on down. In April 2023, he was named Toastmaster of the Year, and he continues to support and mentor leaders at all levels as the District 55 Education Program Director, as well as an Area Director, in order to complete his second DTM this next year. What? Please welcome Bart Loeser.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Sounds like I've got some issues about saying no. I'm sure some of you out there may also notice sometimes we tend to overcommit. But today, I am thrilled to be here with you guys. We've got an exciting presentation that will overwhelm most of you. But the good thing is, we're recording this. You can always listen to it another time. So that's a great opportunity. And plus, there's many of you with great experience out there who you should be teaching these and all of this information to your clubs. Because who in Toastmasters needs to know how to run our clubs and be successful? Is it just the officers? We all need to be involved because we're all a team. It's not just up to us. So I'm going to start off with just showing you guys how many of you feel pretty comfortable going onto the TI website and finding the information you need to support you in your officer role. I'm not seeing a whole lot of hands, although many of you have some great competency in getting onto the TI website. So I thought I would just share with you at the very beginning just a little bit about what you see there, because I think it's so important to get comfortable with that. So I'm just going to share my screen real quick here. The Toastmasters District website. Now this is once I've logged in, notice how it says up there, welcome Bart. So none of the rest of you can get that information. But what's important is to start reading this main page here on what it's asking you to do. Most of us go to the base camp. Some of you are base camp managers, and you'll have access to that through here as well. I love the ideas about the achievement board and other things, but I'm going to move all the way down past the business meeting that's coming up soon, the annual business meeting. And I hope all of you have gotten your, or at least sent in your proxies to the appropriate people. That needs to be done as quickly as possible. But Leadership Central is really the most important thing that you officers should go through, especially to Club Central. Or if you're wondering about what your officer roles actually are, or you want to see some amazing new tutorials on how to do your job as officers, this is all right here on your TI website once you check in. There's also amazing tools here. Obviously, you might be seeing this leader letter that comes in, but here's another important tool, the Distinguished Performance Report. This is your dashboard. You need to get used to going to your dashboard often to find out where's your club and how can how far away are you from success? Because tonight we're going to be dealing with success. But let's just go quickly to Club Central real quick, because I think some of you are being new, don't know Club Central well. And here's where I want you to spend a lot of your time over the next couple of weeks learning about Club Central, how to manage your club. Here's one about Club Success Plan that I'll be addressing tonight. We'll also be focusing on such things as club achievements. But you can actually look through these. Here's your Distinguished Performance Report. This again is your dashboard. That's so important to go to. So many incredible resources that are just in this one area for you officers. Now I'm going to just ask a question as we get into this topic here. Who here can tell me, why should we care about success? Do clubs need to be, can't we just show up and just be social and have fun and maybe give a speech or two occasionally? What do you guys think? Why do we need to concern ourselves with success? You could unmute yourself if you'd like and just share what's your opinion, especially someone who may be newer to leadership. I know most of you experienced leaders already know why we should be listening to and following the DCP and caring.
It builds our confidence.
Oh, I love that one. It builds our confidence. Wonderful job. Thank you, Carol. Who else? We got something in the chat room. It's more energizing. How many of you would love to have energizing meetings? Well, I'm going to teach you today how to do that. And there's lots of different ways. What else? The DCP it's our roadmap to success. So you have to understand raise your hands here if you have no idea, and you can be honest here, what DCP actually stands for or why it even matters. I was a Toastmaster for 5 years. 5 years when I became the division director, and I finally learned why I should concern myself with the DCP. I'd been leading clubs for years, but I didn't care about those points. I didn't care about the DCP. That to me just seemed ridiculous. That just seemed to me, that's just something Toastmasters International wants. I don't see what it has to do with our club's success. And yet I learned some valuable lessons that year that changed my life. So I'm glad you guys are stepping into important roles that are going to change your lives. You will now see the corporate world in a completely new way, especially as you move up into district leadership. I'm going to be an area director again this year, and I've been a division director before, but I've learned more from those positions than almost anything I've ever learned in the corporate world. So I encourage you guys to keep on this Toastmasters journey and keep pushing yourselves to learn these new skills. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with tonight's program, and just to show you a little bit about what we're all about for tonight. We've got a lot to cover, and what I'd like is I'll check in with you guys for any questions that you may have as we go along. But tonight is not just about a club success plan. It is about club success in general, as Toastmasters defines it. Everything you need to do to lead your club, but you might have been afraid to ask. Please don't be afraid to ask tonight. This is session number 2 for our TLI, our officer training. And so today, what I want to do is present to you a little bit about what we're going for. I know it's going to be asking a lot, but I'm going to focus on 5 areas. The first I've already focused on a bit, which is TI website resources. Now, I didn't even go into the TMD55 website, which gives you some very specific access to what you'll find on TI's website, but it also has a calendar with deadlines and things like that that you guys will have to know as officers, things that are very important to keep on top of. The second thing we'll be focusing on is an education program that helps us to identify the weaknesses in our organizations, in our clubs. I'm sure you guys have heard of the SWOT model, SWOT, for solving problems. Looking at what are our strengths, that's what the S stands for. The W, weaknesses. Weaknesses are not bad. They're just opportunities for growth. Opportunities to identify where do we need to build on before our club gets into trouble. And the T, of course, in SWOT is coming up with some solutions. So can anybody tell me what the T in SWOT stands for, if you're familiar with it? SWOT. Our strengths, the W, our weaknesses, the O is the opportunities.
Traps.
Traps. What can get in the way? Even how many of us have a plan for how we're going to be successful, but things get in the way? Does that happen? Should we plan ahead for those things? Because most people wait to deal with a problem when it becomes the size of an elephant. I'm sure any of you could imagine, if you look around the room you're in, imagine if you had a full-grown elephant in that room at this moment. Michael O'Neill, if you had a full-grown elephant in that room right now, would that be a problem for you? I don't know if you've been to a zoo lately, but they're pretty big. Would it be a problem? You're on mute, by the way. So you can press your space more. Well, how about somebody else? Olivia, in the room you're in, would it be a problem if there was an elephant standing in there with you? Yeah. So you got to get it out of there, and there's really only one way to do it. If you can look at the windows and the doors that might be in your room, anybody else can as well. Will a full-grown elephant get through that door, those windows? So there's only one way you're getting it out of there. What is that?
One bite at a time.
Oh, I don't suggest biting a live elephant. It's not going to go well, Mickey. And it's
Haven't you
gonna,
heard that old joke? How do you eat
yeah,
it?
oh no, I've heard that joke. I've tried it. It doesn't work. So don't do it. It is just a joke. Leave it for laughing matters. Where laughing really matters. By the way, that's one of my clubs in my new K74 district. So, but anyways, in my area. But so what do you do about this elephant? Well, there's only one way to get rid of it. And if you're a member of PETA, please forgive me. But the only way you're getting rid of it is you're going to have to shoot it and cut it up into smaller pieces. And I know Livia, she probably doesn't have a gun there with her. So this is going to be a problem. It's complicated. It's messy. And the elephant's not going to like it. And who's going to help you get those pieces out of there? Right? This is a problem. So how many of you are sitting there wondering if it's that hard to get the elephant out of the room? How did it get in your room in the first place? And there is only one way. Can anyone tell me what's the one way it could have gotten in there? Livia, you have any idea? And don't blame Kyle.
How did you know?
Well, one is that if it was a baby elephant, I just let it grow and do its thing. I'm ignoring the problem.
Someone had to walk it in there when it was a baby. How many of you don't even begin to deal with your problems until they're the size of a full-grown elephant? You don't want to wait that late. You'll want to deal with it early. That's what Moments of Truth is all about, is identifying where are the big problems before they get too big and dealing with them then. We'll also focus on that mysterious DCP and how to understand your dashboard. I'm also going to teach you just a little bit about a club success plan, which is your roadmap to how you're going to achieve the Distinguished Club Program or success with your club. And of course, the person's working with you. We're all a team. Us area directors are here to support your clubs, and we want you to support us as well. So we're looking for that mutual support, and we're here to help you. But how many of you feel like when you're now a director, you're now an officer, so you're ready to go to work. How many of you feel like you've just been thrown into the deep end and then someone asks you, do you know how to swim? I forgot to ask. How many of you feel like you're just parachuting into a pool full of crocodiles and alligators just waiting to bite you on the butt almost every time you have to deal with something? This is not easy and it's stressful, but it doesn't have to be if you plan ahead. So this session is really all about planning and being proactive. So let's look at how to do that. Let's first look at what happens when we fail. Most people hate failure. We fear failure. Of course, what's behind fear? You may have remembered that acronym, if you can imagine it, FEAR spelled out vertically. False evidence appearing real. Normally, most things that we fear are not real, but they do hold us back. They do get in our way. So failure is not always a good thing, but failure can be a good thing. Can anybody tell me, when is failure a good thing?
When it becomes a learning opportunity.
And when is failure not ever a learning opportunity? As a matter of fact, failure is the most powerful lesson you learn from in life. If you don't fail, you don't see where the weaknesses are. So actually, we want to succeed, but we have to look at failure differently. And failure is just simply not achieving the goals that you set. That is, if you want to define what is failure, not achieving your goal. Well, how many of us in the last year or two have been in situations where we did not achieve our goals? And I am a member of 2 clubs that are pretty strong. And this last year, I was determined we are going to be distinguished in both those clubs. And I was president for half the term in the first club, and I was president for the entire term for the second club, and we failed in both. I will say I failed in both because my job as president was to lead that club to success. And I failed to be able to lead them to that success. Now, it is a team thing, but I'll take that responsibility because failure is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing if you learn from it. So you have to realize there's some steps to follow to learn from failure. And here's the 3 steps that I encourage people to do if you're going to learn from failure to turn it into success. Number 1, you have to notice it. If you don't even notice that you're failing, you can't fix it. So you have to notice it. And how many of us know some people who have failed and yet they refuse to even admit it? I'm not naming names, but I will say it's not a good thing because you can't fix it if you don't notice it. That's one of the reasons why we give feedback to people, because most of us don't see our own behavior very accurately. You need other people who see it to give you some accurate feedback about what they're noticing. So you want your team to help you to notice what the problems are. Then keep in mind, we're always making choices, and who's responsible for your choices? Who do you think it is? We are always responsible for our own choices, but we learn early in life. Kids are so smart that by the time they're 1 year old, they've learned I don't have to be held accountable if I fail, as long as I can do one of two things. Either I'm going to find a really good excuse for why I failed, then it's not my fault, or I'm going to blame someone else. That's why I wish Livia was still the district director, because then I can blame her, but now I can't. But the whole point is, I can't blame her for not passing this information down to me. I knew how to find this information, and I am completely responsible for my choices. So we have to notice it, we have to own it, and we have to work out a plan that's going to fix it. And if you follow those 3 steps, your failure is successful. And in Toastmasters, we're all about failing forward. That's why we put you into positions that you're unsure about, but you're going to learn from it. Will you fail sometimes? Yes. But what if you catch the failure when it's small and learn from it then before it gets too bad? That's what we want to do in Toastmasters. One of my favorite quotes comes from Henry Ford, not necessarily one of my favorite people, but the quote I like. Failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. We've learned some things now. That's why you should always do a lessons learned after you play each role. If you play a role and it didn't go perfectly, what'd you learn from it? That's what we do as Toastmasters. And you're playing roles as officers, and you want to learn from it. So club success means different things, but for success for us as Toastmasters, it's defined by Toastmasters International, what we're going for, what our goal is, and why it matters. You can even find it simply in our club mission. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience. So if you're not providing a supportive experience, and who are you supposed to be supporting? Everyone in your club. And it needs to be positive. And who gets to decide if it's positive? You or your club members. And there has to be learning. I have to say, in one of my clubs, we didn't earn 1 education point this last year. Makes me wonder, are we really learning? So, and how much are we learning? That's what Pathways is all about. But we're doing this in a way in which members are empowered, so we let them do it their own way, to develop communication and leadership skills that should result in greater self-confidence and personal growth. How many of you have had club members leave before they ever had a chance to even get that far, where they started to lose or to build that self-confidence and to start to grow, and they didn't give the club a chance? So if someone's not willing to give your club a chance, you can't help them anyways. So I'm getting a lot more strict about the people that we're allowing into our clubs, and the way I get strict is I have them read, when they sign that contract to become a member, there's something right next to that contract. Does anybody know what's right next to that contract that they've agreed to? Livia, what's there?
It's my favorite. It's the club promise. It's the membership promise.
It's
My
your
favorite
Toastmasters
part.
promise, like a Boy Scout. I think
love
this was
it.
Boy Scout. But anyway, you made a promise to give back to your club, to commit to playing roles, to take on leadership actions. So you can't say no to that. You came into this to be uncomfortable, to step out of the box and learn from it. And there are a lot of people in this world who aren't willing to commit to that. So although I like to say Toastmasters is for everybody, it actually isn't. There are some people who don't like feedback. There are some people who will quit a club when they get feedback. I actually had someone who quit my club when I gave him feedback as a general evaluator, because he said, general evaluators don't get evaluated. I said, actually you do. So, but that's just something to be aware of. So let's look at, are we truthfully, honestly giving our members what we promised to them? Well, there's a program that analyzes that. And that program is called Moments of Truth. Let's get honest. Do we really do what we say we do? And they have 6 elements in this program. So you can divide this up so that almost every one of your officers, or if you have a secretary treasurer, they could take on one moment of truth. And every other month or so, you teach this moment of truth. And I'm going to go through one of them, but there's 6 of them. Do we give a great first impression? Because how many first impressions can you give a guest? They only get one, right, Mickey? And how well do we orient our members so that they know how to sign up for roles? They understand how the roles are played or where to get that information. We don't do a great job often orienting our members. And if they don't get oriented, they just are confused for the longest time. This is another reason why it's so important to make sure everybody who's new is getting a mentor. And you don't have to have a lot of experience to be a mentor. You could be in the club for 6 months and you know enough to help somebody who just started. So anyone can be a mentor, but you got to help them through the process of getting onboarded onto your club's culture and how it works, because each club is different. Another area, do we provide fellowship, variety in meetings and communication? There are a lot of clubs that just meet and they don't do anything social other than that. And there's a lot of people who love the social aspects of Toastmasters, and that doesn't usually fall within the tight meetings that we have. Another area is program planning. You know, when you have your meetings, do you have an agenda that comes out a couple days beforehand, and does that agenda look pretty much like it does in the meeting? Have you confirmed the roles and made sure that your people are prepared for their roles? I can understand someone dropping out, but the other night in one of my clubs, we had a meeting and it seemed like almost half the people had dropped out in the last 2 days. And we didn't even know it when the meeting had started. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute, we don't have our evaluators here. That looks disorganized. We need to fix that. But you want to analyze, how strong are we as a club? Our membership strength, are we bringing in new members? Can anyone tell me how many members does the most successful Toastmasters clubs that are out there, how many members do they lose a year? Because who wants to leave a successful club? Can anyone tell me what the studies have shown? What is that percentage on average?
40%.
What was that, Mickey? I heard it.
At least 20%.
40%. Some clubs lose even more. I've been in clubs that lost 50% in a year or 60% in a year, and these were great clubs. Some of this is out of your control, but let's look at our membership strength, because Toastmasters does. If you don't have enough members, if you don't have like 20 members, then you can't have 12 people coming to meetings consistently to fill all the roles. That's why you need a certain number of members to be a successful club. And I know some of you guys have some clubs that have far fewer members, and it's a struggle having meetings and filling roles. It's not even fun. You don't want meetings that are like that. So we're going to talk about these, and achievement recognition. Each of these have 5 or 6 areas you're going to look at in each of these 6 areas. So I'll just go through the first one, first impressions and moments of truth. By the way, there's a booklet out there, and it's a part of the Successful Club series. You don't have to write a speech. It's already written for you in each of these areas. And each of you officers should be giving this speech at least every 6 weeks to 2 months. And it only takes about 10 minutes. So here's one, first impressions. Remember the 80-20 rule, that 80% of the problems your clubs have comes from 20% of the causes. So if you can identify 20% of the biggest causes that are getting in the way of your clubs being successful, you could fix most of the problems. So let's look at these barriers that could get in the way in terms of first impressions. Number 1, we should be greeting each guest enthusiastically, warmly, making them feel welcome. How many of you ever came to a meeting, and I've been to some Toastmasters meetings where I walked in as a guest, I wasn't even introduced, no one talked to me, I didn't know who was who, it felt really weird, and I was their area director years ago. I came into their meeting and no one greeted me. It's like, wow, okay. I was almost embarrassed to say, I'm your area director, so you might want to say hi to me. But they were busy putting the meeting together. How many of us get so busy putting the meeting together that we're not greeting our guests and making them feel welcome, introducing them around, getting their information? It's helpful for people to have name tags, and I know it's easier when we're here on Zoom, for everybody to have their name up there. It's also, you might want to put what your roles are so people get to know who you are by your name up here. But if you're still meeting in person, and we're getting back to doing that, it's a good idea to go back to having name tags because those guests don't know who you are. So, and if they're on, it's a little bit harder when you have a hybrid club. We're still working that out. But again, it's about creating better ways to get this done. You don't have to have a guest book per se, but you do need to have a way to track, get the phone numbers and contact information for your guests so that you can check with them later. You should have a meeting room that looks professional, including these online ones, having a professional background perhaps, or, certainly having something that looks as if you've given some thought to where you are. I was in a meeting just last night in one of our clubs, and somebody was speaking, and all you could see was basically the bottom of his nose and down below. And so it's like, okay, you might want to notice what you look like while you're speaking to people. So that's something you have to be aware of because that's about professional look. Number 4, do we ensure that the meeting location is convenient, accessible, and that it's clearly marked? So if you're meeting in person, that's so important. I had someone call me for the meeting who was going to be a guest. He said, okay, we're at the church. Where do we go? I said, we don't meet at a church. I have no idea where you guys are. We don't meet at I think you're going to a different club. We meet at my home currently. But that I should have been clearer about. Somehow he got the wrong information. And lastly, do we encourage guests to participate in the meeting, even though they don't have to do a table topic, but do we let them at least say a little bit about what brought them there maybe? And if they feel uncomfortable doing it, they also don't have to speak. They're guests. But how well do we do this? And you can just ask your team on a scale of 1 to 5. And if it's a 1, we need to work on this. If it's a 5, we're doing great. Keep it up. So it's all about problem solving in a very creative way. This is why in Toastmasters, you want people to come up with great creative solutions that step out of the box. I know all of you guys, we have 150 people here. I'm sure many of you probably have 150 to 200, 300 solutions on various ways to solve problems with your clubs. That's one of the things you're going to be doing in your officer breakouts in the next session, is coming up with creative ways to problem solve with or troubleshoot the difficult areas. And you can all share, especially those of you who've got a lot of experience on how to do it. But let me teach you just a little bit about success again. And success in Toastmasters is defined by the DCP. Stands for Distinguished Club Program. So you don't say the DCP program. No, it's Distinguished Club Program. So the DCP. Well, in the DCP, they identified several areas that clubs need to do well in to be a successful, strong club that can thrive. How many of you would love for your clubs to thrive? That's what we're here to do as officers. That's what we agreed to do, is to help our clubs to get to a level where they thrive. So knowing this program is key. And they divided it up into these 10 areas or 10 points that if you achieve this particular thing, you will get a point. And if you earn 5 points, you're considered a distinguished club. And we want all of our clubs to be distinguished this year. We want all of our areas to be distinguished. Area directors have their own things that they need to do to be distinguished. There's distinguished divisions and there's a distinguished district. So Toastmasters measures our success with this distinguished club program. But for your clubs, it's these 10 areas. It's easy to get the first 5, especially if you start early. My club, or one of my clubs, Austin Pride Club, I've mentioned to them already that I've finished 2 level 5s and I haven't turned them in yet. So I'll turn them in at the end of this month and we'll have, I'll get to what the points are, but we get 2 points from that. And because we've already brought in 3 members, we're getting ready to bring in a 4th member, that's another point. So we'll be on our way to being distinguished after our first month. Now, of course, we want to go for all 10 of them. So, but we will be distinguished, I have no doubt, if we do one thing. There is a caveat to this program. You cannot participate in the program unless you meet the membership requirement. The membership requirement says you've got to have at least 20 members, which is what they've established that an average club needs to be successful, to have enough players and to have a strong enough club to, be able to meet the needs and the promises we're making. Or if you don't have 20 and you have less than 20, you can have more than 20. That's easy for those big clubs. But if you have less than 20, who here has significantly less than 20? Anybody want to unmute and tell me how many people are in your club? Who would like to share?
I think
It was,
we've gone down to 12 since we had to go remote.
The 12?
Yeah.
Well, one of the great things for a club who has fewer than 13 is you qualify for getting a club coach. And the club coach's job is to help your club and help you officers build it back up in all these different areas. So that's what the club coach does. And you qualify. You wouldn't qualify if you had 13 or 14, but if you have 12 or under, you qualify. Betty, how many do you have in your club?
We have 21.
So your club is doing just fine. You automatically will qualify for the DCP if you maintain at least the 20 by what date? When do they check to see? It's like almost a picture. They take a photograph of where your club is on the all-important date where they measure, did you achieve the DCP? What day do they do that?
June 30th.
June 30th. That's one of your deadlines you guys have to know. We've got a whole year to go from that, so we got lots of time, 11 months practically. But June 30th, they take a snapshot of your club. And on that date, they find out how many members did you have as of June 30th. And Betty, if your club still has 20 or more, you qualify for being in the Distinguished Club program. So, but your club probably through the year will have lost some members and you'll need to replace those members, but you've got to have that 20. But if you don't have the 20 and you have fewer than 20, they look at your baseline number, your base number of members, and that is measured after June 30th. Whatever your membership was on June 30th, by July 1st, that is your base number.
Yep.
So if you started off, Mickey, if your club is at 12 members right now, that's your base number for this year, but you don't have to get it up to 20. They'd love it if you do, but you have to get it up to a certain number. Does anybody know what that number is?
I think it's 3 more than the base.
Very wise, Mickey. And that's true for this year and it's true for last year, but it is not true for the previous years. And what was it the previous years?
5.
It was 5 more than your base. So if you guys start with 12, you'd have to have 17. But with COVID and the problems that we've been having, they've decided, well, we're going to make it a little easier on the clubs. So you only have to get 3. Now that may change next year, but this year it's still 3. So no matter what your base number is, you only need 3 to participate in the DCP. And when do you have to have those 3 by? You don't have to worry about it today. You don't have to worry about it in December. You might want to be thinking about it by April. But if you've waited until June to worry about building your numbers up, it's too late. You really should be thinking about it in January. And what's going to be happening with the renewals in April? Are we going to lose anybody? Because we've got to get our baseline up about 3 above where we were at the beginning of the year. And we should look right now where we're at. But how do you know where you're at? That's the problem. How do we know where we're at from day to day? There is a way to find out. Well, we'll look at that in just a second, but I'm going to teach you guys about how you earn these points. And these are considered key performance indicators. And for those of you in the corporate world, you may be familiar with that term because in corporations, they have indicators for your teams for success. And they're looking for very specific things they want your team to achieve to be a successful team. And so when you're working in the corporate world, you're playing to these key performance indicators. When you're in Toastmasters, if you want to be a quality club, one that's distinguished, you also must pay attention to how are they measuring that. Here's what it looks like. The first thing they're measuring is how well do our officers know what they're doing? Should they know what they're doing? We think they should. Well, they don't make every officer get trained. If you want the point, though, you have to get more than half of them. Now, keep in mind, it's not the person they count. It's the office they count. So if you hold 2 offices like treasurer, secretary, treasurer, you would get 2 points, or you get credit for the training for both of those offices. But you need 4 people to get the credit. So in January, when I was president of one of my clubs, I talked to my club about it's winter time. We need to get we need at least 4 officers trained so that we can qualify for this point. We got them trained in the summertime, but this is the second time because they do it twice annually, biannually. The next training, the next TLI, we need 4 people, and people committed to that. And I thought we were set. And then things happened, life happened, and things got in their way. And I found out after January, only 2 of us got trained, and I always get trained. So then only 1 of the other officers got trained. How did that happen? How did we miss that? And as a president, I shouldn't have allowed that to be missed. I should have known, okay, we're mid-January. Do we have at least 3 people who've been trained? Because we got 2 more trainings. You have still a chance. And I didn't stay on top of it. And it's easy to forget that stuff with the craziness of the holidays, right? And you're just getting back to things in January, and you don't realize this is a key indicator. We lose an easy point if we don't make sure this happens. So get at least 4 people trained this time around, and there's what, 3 more trainings that you can opt into, 1 in Austin, a live one, in person, and then 2 more on the 15th of August and on the 28th. That's a Tuesday and a Monday. The 28th is your last chance to get at least four officers trained. So, and we'll do it again in the summertime, but you have to do it both times to get the point. But it's pretty easy to do. Do you guys think so? So pretty easy. The next point is an administrative point. This is also pretty easy to do. If you get your club officer list in on time, and generally, if that means if you have officers for 1 year, you're only going to elect them once, that means you have to have them in by June 30th. If you have officers every 6 months, that means by June 30th or by December 31st, but you only have to do it one of those times. There's also 2 times when the dues are due. And I think you guys are aware that September is when we're paying dues because they are due October 1st and they are due April 1st. Not everybody has to be paid. How many people have to be paid to qualify to be a club in good standing?
8.
8 people. 8 people have to be paid. So, and it can't be someone who's transferred. They got to be new. They got to be reinstated. So that sort of thing. They can be a dual member, a member of another club. So, but there has to be at least 8. And if you do it at least one of those 2 times and got your officers list in so that they know how your club's being administered, and so Toastmasters needs to know this stuff and they want their dues, then they give you a point for it. Now you got 2 points. Any questions so far? Most people, believe it or not, do not understand this program. So I want you guys to understand this because you'll be using it closely this year. The next point's also pretty easy for some, most, I'd say, if you start now and have a plan. If you bring in 4 new members, now it can't be a member who's transferred, but it can be reinstated, could be a brand new member, or it could be somebody who's a dual member. Either way, if you bring in 4 of them, and we brought in 2 reinstated this month and 1 brand new member, so we just need 1 more, and we get 1 of those 2 points. Does anybody know why it's 4 plus 4? Why you bring in 4 new members and 4 more new members? What does that equal?
Need a minimum of 8.
It means 8, and 8 represents 40% of a healthy club of 20 members. So do they want you to keep bringing in 40% of people or 40% of 20 to stay healthy? Now, some clubs don't do this, but this is why your VP of membership wants to have a plan for how they're going to bring in new people. And that also means that they need to work closely with the VP of PR who's going to attract your guests. So we're all working together on this, but we all play a part in making this happen. So 4 people, you get a point. 4 more people, you get another point. That's 4 points. That's pretty easily done if you stay focused and do it early. You know, I'd say make sure you have your first 4 people by November. Can anyone tell me why I don't want to make it by December or January? Why is that not a good time to have it as your deadline for getting those 4 members?
Holidays.
It's the holidays. No one's thinking about running their club during the holidays. Now, that's not true. I know Livia is, but not every, but the whole point is, yeah, some people are really on task, but usually people stop paying attention in the months of December and January, and that can lead to trouble. So the moment you look away, as I did in January, you could lead you to trouble. And the last one is 6 points. There's 6 total points if you are following pathways. And if you're making progress in pathways, this is your VPE's job. This is the job of the mentors, to keep people moving forward in pathways to earn the credits that you can get for it. And I'm going to show you what those are in just a second, but what you're looking at now is the club dashboard. Now, this one is for one of my clubs, Balcones Toastmasters, which you would think they were successful because look, if you look at the far right, it gives you so much information on here. You've got your club number on here, you got your name, you can even search for other clubs if you want to compare yourself to other clubs. Look under here under membership in the middle. In the middle here, it tells you your base here for this club was 15. So in July of last year, we started off at 15 members. But as of June 30th, we were at 11. Can anyone see the problem there? Now, I started sounding the bell in April. I said, we haven't been bringing in enough people. And it's a problem. Even if we, because you can, well, I'll show you in a moment, we did get 4 new members in. And we actually got 5 total in, but we didn't get all 8. And that led to a problem because how many people did we need if we had 15 to start? You can see it actually tells you required is 18 people, 20 members, or a net growth of 3. And I think all of you now understand what we mean by net growth of 3 over that year. And you look over to the right and say, have we met our DCP goals? The answer is, it says we've met 5 of them. And you'll see check marks down at the bottom on the 10 different goals we're supposed to achieve. And it'll even tell you how far away you are from getting the next check mark. This is why looking at your dashboard is so important. I keep that, I keep it in my calendar. So every time we have a Toastmaster meeting, if I need to pull up the dashboard, it's right there. And I'll pull it up in my club and say, hey guys, here's what we need to be working on right now. When I was the president, because the president's job is not to do the work. The president's job is to make sure the work's getting done. And that is a lot of work, by the way. So, but they use this dashboard to see where are we right now and where do we need to be. And so it lists at the top the 6 education levels. If you finish one level 1, well, that's good. But you actually need 4 people, and even one person could finish 2 level 1s, but you need 4 level 1s completed in that year to get a point. Now, it doesn't matter how many more level 1s you complete, you're not going to get more points. It's just that. But then get 2 level 2s and 2 more level 2s. So if those first 4 people started off early in the year and they got those level 1s and then they moved on and they finished their level 2s before the end of the year, that's 3 education points just from that alone. And if you have more advanced Toastmasters, you could finish 2 level 3s. And if you do that, you get a point. And if you finish a level, well, let's see, level 3 awards, it is 2 level 3s, isn't it? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, 2 level 3s. It says in the goal, you got to get 2 of them. And if you get a level 5, you get a point. Well, we had someone with the level 4, level 5, or the DTM, the high level ones. We got a point for that. We also got a point for somebody else achieving the same thing. You're not going to get more points. So if you got several people finishing level 4s and several people finishing level 5s, you still only get 2 points. But that's how it works, and you can see that. We did get 4 members in. Oops, let me go back. We got 4 members in. Come on. There we go. And down at the bottom, we did get our club officers list in. We got our dues in on them. We got all the other points. But where did we fail? Can anyone tell me?
You didn't have enough members.
Yeah, so here we are working on getting these points, and we couldn't use them. Now, that wasn't the problem in my other club, Austin Pride. In Austin Pride, we didn't achieve any of the education levels. And without being able to achieve at least one of those 6. Now, at the end, I thought, do I turn in my 2 level 5s at the end of June and get us distinguished? So we'll be distinguished because we had at least 3 other points. But then I decided we're a team. And are we truly a distinguished club if we've practically not achieved any of the Pathways projects? How distinguished is your club if you're not doing the education, right? So I decided I'd rather we fail as a club, and we can start off strong in the new year, but there are lessons to learn from failure. So I allowed the club to fail. And I admitted that I'm responsible for that failure because I was the president. So I mean, there's other reasons why we failed too, but me not leading well in that area was the reason. So any questions about the DCP? This is a good time to, if someone wants to unmute and ask any questions. I know there's a lot of information, but how many of you are learning some things sometimes for the first time about how to run these clubs? So let me look at.
I have a question, if you have a second. Sorry,
I
this is
do.
Stacey Thompson from Bernie.
Hey.
What is the metric used to count new members? Is it dues paid? Is it they showed up 5 times in a row? Like,
The only thing that's required is they've filled out an application and someone has gone on to Toastmasters International and paid their dues.
Okay.
As long as Toastmasters International sees that their dues are paid, they're an active member. If the next dues cycle comes around and they don't pay their dues, from that moment on, they don't have access to their pathways or anything, and they're not considered a member in good standing until they pay their dues. So if they're going to give a speech or something and they haven't paid their dues, I'd love you to give that speech. Let's do that. So let's collect your money right now and pay your dues so you can give your speech. But this is an important thing for all of you officers. It's what I'm telling my clubs right now. I don't want anyone giving a speech until they have first chosen what pathways project they're going to work on and have opened that project, read that project, and are prepared for writing their speech based on that project. So even if you're going to come up to a meeting and say, I'm going to give a pocket speech, my first question is, which project is that from? Because if you're not giving it from a project, I don't want you doing it post-mortem. After you've given your speech, then go back and read your project and we'll give you credit. But the whole point is you're supposed to learn from the project and then write your speech. Livia.
This is, I don't want to derail your I don't want to derail your presentation, but remember, officers, that even in competition, we are now in the middle of, so your club has to be good at standing for your members to even compete in the international. Secondly, now for those that want to compete, we have to be was it level 1, level 2?
You have to finish at least a level 2.
Yeah, to even compete now. And we're not talking about, so us that are from the old school, that are from legacy, the DTMs, it means nothing if we don't have up to level 2 so that we can compete. So our DCP affects a lot of the club experience. So that's all I wanted to say.
Didn't know. I thought if you were in the old system, like if I've got a DTM, I automatically get. So okay, but I've already finished. But at least if you finished one pathways path, I'm working on my 3rd path and I'm getting ready to start 4th and 5th. But as long as you finished level 2 of one of those paths, you can then participate in the international speech contest. Now, the other contests you can participate in. They don't have those requirements for the other ones. But for international speech, you have to do that. That also requires an original speech. Because I am telling my members right now, if you're intimidated about writing a speech and you just have some idea what you want to talk about, go to ChatGPT and have it give you great ideas for a speech, maybe even give you the speech, and then you can go practice that speech in your meeting. You just couldn't use a speech like that for international. But if for those of you, because I have someone in one of our clubs who has brain damage from he had brain cancer and has a hard time writing and just can't write a speech. I said, well, if you have an idea what you want, just put it into ChatGPT and it will write it for you and it'll be a great speech. And then you just need to practice it and go give it. Because it's really about, in my book, this is just my opinion, it's mostly about how you deliver that speech. You want to learn how to write a good speech, but it's really about getting feedback on how you deliver the speech. That's where you truly learn. Although, I do agree that writing a speech is a good skill, but there are some people who are just not good at writing, and that's okay. So, but anyways, so we'll move on next to about how do you achieve goals when if you don't have a plan, it's just a wish. I love that quote. So, and we're all about having a plan. So you got to have a plan. Our goals can be reached through a vehicle of a plan in which we fervently believe and upon which we must vigorously act. I'd almost underline act. If you don't have actions attached to your plan, you don't have a good plan. So yeah, we have a question here. Yes, Brendan.
Hey Bart, you got about 2 minutes.
Yes, and I'm not going to tell you guys, we're not going to go through the club success plan. I'm just going to say, make time to create your roadmap to how you're going to achieve this DCP, who's going to do what, when they're going to do it, how they're going to do it, and have this plan by the end of August. Set yourself a deadline. If you can do that, and that means all your officers get together and create this plan, setting the goals, creating the strategies, developing the framework on how you're going to achieve the DCP. Keep in mind, a great attitude toward this plan is important. It's going to help you to be successful. So let me just, we've been through these pieces here, so I'm just going to move to the last piece here, which is all about accountability. Our job as officers is to hold our clubs and our club members from taking the actions that's going to help them help our clubs be successful, because that's why they joined, is not for them just to learn, but to give back to the club. So our job is to learn to hold people accountable. And I actually have in our resource library a class I taught last year on accountability, how to hold people accountable without making them wrong. You know, how to do it in a way that sounds like you care and that's nice, because people don't like to be made wrong. So hold them accountable, though, for what they agreed to, and that's what the plan is all about. So let's write our club success plan for 2024. And I want to review these action items that we've covered in this session. I know that's been a lot of information, but we focused on learn about the TI website and the resources that are there, which can be overwhelming. We break down many of them on our district website, so get to know our district website, because that's where you can find out a lot of the important information on running your club that's important to the district, deadlines and things like that. Use moments of truth with your officers to engage your members to identify the barriers that are getting in our way and brainstorm solutions. Third point, understand the DCP metrics, those KPIs, the key performance indicators, and keep your eye focused on your dashboard. Make sure to have that little link somewhere so that your officers always know where are we and where do we need to go to be successful. Create that club success plan by August 31st. And work with your area directors, get help on doing that, because your area directors want you to be successful. And our question we're going to ask our clubs is, what are you guys doing to be successful? What's your plan? One of the things I love to teach people in leadership is that our job is to get really good at delegating to others. Would y'all agree? Like, Elliot, you're a treasurer. Your job is to make sure the funds are collected, but that doesn't mean you have to be the only one doing it. You could have people on a committee that you're delegating to make those phone calls to follow up if you don't have the time. So it's all about delegating well, but here's what you need to delegate well. Two things. Because to delegate, you need to prove you trust them. And how many of you just don't trust certain people? So here's what it takes to trust people. Number one, you have to have a plan, or they have to have a plan, because who should solve their problem? You or them? Who do you think? Who's the best person to solve the problems in your life? It's the person with the problem. They should come up with a plan on how they're going to solve their problem. It's just that they also have to be able to explain how their plan is going to work and is going to achieve the results that we have agreed to. So their plan has to work for me as well as the leader. But if I know they have a plan and I see how it's going to work, I can trust them, can't I? Then the only thing I need to do is hold them accountable to their plan, to what they agreed to. That's why you want it in writing, because you can always, because they'll sometimes say, Mickey, have you ever had people say this? I don't remember agreeing to that. So, and what you do is you have a written plan where you can say, well, here's what it says you've agreed to. Did you not agree to this? And you hold people accountable. That's what it takes to be successful as a leader, and that's what Toastmasters is all about. We are where leaders are made. So I hope you guys had fun, learned a lot from this. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm your education program director. Bart Loeser at Gmail is the way to reach me, and I'm always available to help and support you guys at whatever level. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Bart.